gets his negotiating skills. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now my privilege to introduce the Attorney General for the state of Utah, Sean D. Reyes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you all. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and aloha. The phrase aloha literally means to share one's breath. Alo is to share, ha is a person's breath. Anciently, when the Kanaka Maoli, the Hawaiian people, when they met, they greeted each other with a kiss on the cheek, and through a transfer of breath could share one's strength or essence, called their mana, in a very sacred way. It was how they demonstrated familiarity and love, acceptance and appreciation to each other, and it is what I hope I can convey to you today. As I look out in the audience, I see so many friends, family members, co-workers, contributors, and supporters. I know that I wouldn't be here without all of you. Thank you for your support. In Hawaiian, we say kokua, and for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here with us today. It means so much to me and Seisha. Let me quickly thank Justice Lee for administering the oath of office. Now I know you have other important commitments to attend, so Justice, you may leave any time that you need to, including during my remarks. No, it's kind of fun. As a lawyer, it's not often that you get to tell a justice where to go. And even more importantly, know that he'll listen to you. Normally, I'd be a bit uncomfortable having a justice walk out while I was speaking, but I appreciate him rearranging his schedule this morning just to be here with us. Not only are we friends, but his father, the late Rex Lee, was an inspiration for me to pursue a legal career, and perhaps the greatest Solicitor General that the United States has ever seen. Thank you to all the performers, to Masa Fukuda and the One Voice Children's Choir, to the Japanese taiko group from Ogden, to the Polynesian drum ensemble, and to my own dad, Buddy Reyes, for sharing their talents. We'll also hear from Michael Lucarelli, a world-class talent, later. I just want to thank you because each of you brings such a unique and beautiful energy to this event. Thank you to the faith leaders from all the major religions who met with me this morning, including Elder Dallin Oaks and J.B. Singh, Charu, Pastor Mike Crowder, and many others. Thank you for your words of inspiration to bless this state and its people. I also appreciate the committee who organized this inauguration. It includes members of my office staff, Missy Larson, Catherine Rhodes, and Shelley Exeter, and my campaign staff, Mike Deaver, Alan Crooks, and Lee Reck. We have drawn such a line of demarcation between those two teams that it's rare for them to interact on anything. So it was nice to have them collaborate today. With the state auditor, John Dougal, here, I want to be clear about one thing. All the hard costs for this event are donated, paid for by me, or covered by my supporters. Thank you. The state doesn't pay for the equipment, performers, programs, etc. Like everything else in the AG's office, we want to do things frugally and above board. To my outside and internal transition teams that helped guide us through a tumultuous last year, I'm indebted to you. I'd especially like to acknowledge my executive team and all the members of the Utah Attorney General's office for their tremendous dedication and service to this state. I think it's appropriate for me to ask any of them who are here to please stand. Okay, now I'm telling you as your boss to please stand, so please stand and join me, ladies and gentlemen, in acknowledging these fine service of the state of Utah. Thank you, General Tarbett, for emceeing. It's a bit uncomfortable, and I'm still getting used to people calling me General. The highest rank I've ever achieved in life is Eagle Scout, and when people say general, I say there's only one real general, and it's not me. So thank you, Brian. I'd also like to acknowledge my dear wife, Seisha, and our 6 children, and our parents who are here today. Finally, I want to thank my friend Mike Bailey. Oh, you join me. That was Seisha's brother, Representative Fossen, making sure that she got her share of the ovation. And finally, I want to thank my friend Mike Bailey, one of my speech writers, for a fantastic speech that he wrote. It was a perfect speech, and I'm sure you all would have loved it, but it wasn't the one I needed to give, so I wrote my own speech yesterday, and I'll explain why in a minute. 12 months ago, I stood here, ladies and gentlemen, and addressed all of you, or many of you, newly appointed as the Attorney General and facing challenges unprecedented in the state of Utah. And I want to take a moment to thank Governor Gary Herbert, who couldn't be here today. He's got important business representing the National Association of Governors, and Lieutenant Governor Cox, Spencer Cox, who is here with me. Thank them for giving me that chance to serve. A year ago, we were faced with serious distrust by the public in our office, a demoralized workforce, dissatisfied clients, a lack of infrastructure. We lacked many policies, consistency, resources, vision, and we were tasked with handling cases of great import to the state and nation, as well as investigations internally and externally into our office, and that was just on the first day. In this whirlwind year, I am proud to say that we, as an office, as a team, have focused our attention on returning to being a law office and not a political one, focused on legal excellence, professionalism, and our duty to defend the citizens, businesses, and the laws of this great state. Thank you. Most significantly, and I hear this from all corners of the state, we have as a team returned trust and honor back at the highest levels of the office of the Utah Attorney General. Thank you. And in spite of all of these challenges, I could talk about the many victories over this past year. The largest spice bust, the largest heroin bust, the largest human trafficking arrest in the history of the state of Utah, thwarting terrorist threats and child pornographers, not to mention significant white-collar cases, constitutional victories, and important everyday cases like collecting child support from deadbeat parents and keeping children with their families unless there is abuse. In fact, I could spend my entire time today talking about our wins, but really, you can read those on our website, in press releases, or in articles. I rarely get a chance to talk about who we are at the AG's office. And I guess a large part of who we are rests on who I am. So if you'll indulge me, I want to share a few personal thoughts that might give some perspective on how I approach my duties as Attorney General. Whenever I speak here in the Capitol, I'm struck by the beauty of the rotunda and the strength that the pillars surrounding us represent literally and symbolically. Like the Capitol building, I too have pillars that have served to lift and sustain me throughout my life. Many of you have heard me speak in other settings about the pillars of faith and God in my life. Often I speak about the strength of my wife and children that they are to me, and on numerous occasions I speak about the Constitution of the United States and patriotism as bulwarks in my life. Certainly, God, family, and country have been tremendous foundations and pillars for me. But today, I'd like to highlight some other pillars upon which my life is constructed. Understanding them gives insight into who I am, how I view my role as Attorney General, and in what direction I want to lead my team in this office. The first pillar would be my parents. Some of you have heard stories about my father, Buddy. You've heard him sing, at least. When he was a young man in the Philippines, he had toured singing with Bob Hope, had his art commissioned by the Pope for the Vatican, had his own radio and TV programs. In other words, he had a very comfortable life there. But he chose courageously to speak out against Ferdinand Marcos, a president he did not trust, a man who would become a dictator and strip the Philippines of its constitutional protections and plunge that country into financial ruin. My father fled to the United States after threats on his life by the regime, leaving everything he knew and loved. Faith, self-reliance, and integrity were the touchstones that helped him rebound and forge success here in America. He taught me to cherish our liberties and be on guard, for in America, Dad would always say, if we are not vigilant, we could lose them here as well. Hard work was another of his hallmarks. I'm glad he sang the song, Magtaning ay Debiro, about a legacy of backbreaking work in the Philippines. When people tease me about working until 3 a.m. and then getting up to play basketball at 6 a.m., I tell them I'm just trying to keep pace with my 74-year-old dad, because that's what he's been doing all of his life. Dad also has a saying, if you have a job to do, do it well or not at all. So if my team in the AG's office thinks I'm a bit fixated on excellence, they can thank Buddy. Our state auditor recently conducted a client satisfaction survey for our office. Now, my team knew that when we started a year ago, client satisfaction hovered somewhere between dismal and really dismal. I like to say galactically dismal. I had a line outside of my office of clients with complaints. So when the survey results came back in and showed client satisfaction over the past year had actually climbed significantly and only 6% remained unhappy, some on my team were surprised to see my disappointment. But those who grew up with me and my family could probably hear my dad saying kindly and patiently, that's great if it's the best that you can do. But if you can do better, you need to get back to work even harder and finish the job. So will we be happy in the AG's office when we hit 100% client satisfaction? Maybe, but by then we'll probably be shooting for 100% of clients not only being satisfied, but thrilled with our work. Thank you, Dad, for the lessons and the pillar that you've been in my life. Let me say something about my mom. She also taught me about respect, hard work, and sacrifice. She grew up in a rural town on the Big Island of Hawaii. Not many there went on to college, much less graduate degrees or professional careers. Mom became a public school teacher in inner city LA, then a high school counselor, dean, and assistant principal in a system that frankly was not particularly inviting or friendly to women or minorities as leaders in education. For years, she was passed over for promotion to principal in favor of less qualified colleagues. But during that time, she earned great respect, not only for what she did, but how she did it. With each slight, she just worked harder, without complaining, without feeling entitled or feeling sorry for herself. When she was finally promoted, she served with distinction for almost 2 decades as a high school principal. She taught me that even if you're treated unfairly or there are unfortunate situations outside your control, keep your head down, work hard, and let your actions and substance be your mouthpiece. One anecdote that I want to share took place when she was a principal. Her school and students were in a tough neighborhood where gang violence was not uncommon. One day during a drive-by shooting at the school, several of her students grabbed her to the ground and shielded her from harm. When I asked her if these were the same students that she always seemed to be disciplining, she answered yes. If so, then why would they want to protect you, I queried. She apparently had asked them the same question. Their reply was, Mrs. Reyes, we know you're hard on us, but you listen and are always fair. We may not like you when you're punishing us, but we all respect you. Besides, you're the only one who cares enough about us to discipline us. Now, I know many of her former students are either dead or in prison due to bad choices, but my mom always believed if you could make a difference with even one, it was worth it. At a young age, that made a deep impression on me. And I've tried to incorporate it into the culture of our team here in the AG's office. Even one person is worth fighting for us in the AG's office. And listening to people, being fair, and doing your job in a respectful way are far more important ultimately than whether people like you or are happy with you. So thank you, Mom, for the pillar that you've been. The next pillar that I'd like to talk about is my own heritage, and I want to spend the majority of my remarks here. For those who know me, you know that I am proudest to be American first and foremost. But part of being American is embracing the rich traditions of my heritage. And I've got a lot of them. Spanish and Filipino on my dad's side, Native Hawaiian and Japanese on my mom's. In a positive light, I might be said to possess a vibrant blend of cultural flavors. Or as some of my friends have said in a much more straightforward and pointed way, Reyes, you're just a Heinz 57 mutt, as in a dog of many breeds. But the stories and traditions of these various cultures have also been a great strength to me and influence how I attempt to fulfill my responsibilities. Certainly, I do not mean to imply that these cultures have any sort of monopoly on particular traits or virtues, but like my parents, they have forged in me certain ideals and principles that I'd like to share. Let me start with my dad's side of the family in the Philippines. One of the most beloved presidents of the Philippines was Ramon Magsaysay, a war hero, defender of democracy, and Time Magazine International Man of the Year, who served in the late 1950s. Magsaysay was my grandfather's cousin and close friend. Their families grew up together. He was my father's godfather, and Dad called him Uncle Ramon. Magsaysay had been a blue-collar mechanic before ascending to the presidency, so he could understand the plight of the common man and the less fortunate. In spite of leading the strongest economy in Philippine history, Magsaysay opened up Malacañang Palace, the Filipino White House, to the peasants, the poor, and the downtrodden, so they could make requests for water to be diverted to a particular province or help with the farm initiative. They would line up by the thousands once a week to bring fruits in a basket or a live chicken to give to their hero, the president. It was on one of these days that an assassin, posing as a farmer, with a gun in his fruit basket, took his place in line with the mission to kill President Magsaysay. The hardened assassin had been trained by a communist sleeper cell for years to carry out this one objective. Nothing would deter him, or so he thought. As his turn to meet with the president got closer, he could hear Magsaysay speak with such compassion and respect to these peasants. The assassin later said he never had felt such love from one man for another, and he knew, despite significant ideological and political differences, that he could not kill Magsaysay because he was the best chance for helping all Filipinos. When it was his turn, the assassin knelt in front of the president, tipping over his basket to reveal his gun, confessed his part in the plot, and asked to be killed quickly. The palace guards were about to oblige him when the president stopped them and asked if the man would be willing to pledge his loyalty to him. The assassin said he would. The president asked him to stand and join his security detail right then and there. From that day forward, the assassin always remained loyal to him, even after the president died in a plane accident. For many years until his own death, this would-be assassin, that they called Manila Boy, continued to drive my Auntie Luz, the former First Lady, and protect our family. Magsaysay's love for those that he served, this kind of love, sacrifice, and caring is transformative. It is the love that can unify the strongest enemies, that can transcend political divides. Even as the most beloved president in Philippine history, not everyone agreed with his policies and decisions, but the love he demonstrated never waned. As we in the AG's office continue to serve the people of Utah of all backgrounds, my hope is that we can do it with the type of love that Magsaysay embodied. Turning to my Spanish roots, I've always been inspired by the stories, admittedly probably legends, of El Cid. His real name was Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar, of Castilian nobility in the 11th century. His countrymen called him campeón, or champion, because he never lost a battle and fought with such bravery against astounding odds. And the Muslims dubbed him El Cid, or the Lord. He arose in the court of King Ferdinand the Great of Castile, and he led the Castilian armies of Ferdinand's son, King Sancho, through numerous victories. But when Sancho was slain and his brother Alfonso attained the crown, El Cid would not pledge fealty until the new king swore a public oath that he had not killed his brother to usurp the throne. Angered by El Cid's integrity and challenge, the new king banished his famous general. Such a fine leader was El Cid that hundreds of noblemen and knights forsook their titles and lands to follow him into exile. And for years, from a humble camp in the woods, El Cid and his knights protected several regions of Spain from invaders, including the Kingdom of Castile. In spite of the injustice of exile, knowing Castile could not survive without his help, El Cid humbly came to the defense of his homeland again and again, without compensation or restoration of his title, simply because he felt it was his duty to protect those he had sworn to defend in Castile. Also noteworthy was his inclination to defend both Christians and Muslims. In his last years, he ruled the great kingdom city of Valencia, a pluralistic state with support of Muslims and Christians alike. We have spent a year returning integrity to the highest levels of the AG's office. And that is my vision, that we can have the integrity of El Cid to continue to make decisions not based on what is politically convenient or personally advantageous, but what is right under the law. And in that process, we may have to challenge the king, speak to power, make calls or decisions that may not be popular in the pursuit of our duty and the law. A couple months ago, I went on an undercover operation to South America, where we captured a number of human traffickers and liberated over 100 young girls, as young as 10 years old, from child sexual slavery. Not only were we able to strike a blow against an epidemic of evil internationally, but like El Cid, we proactively prevented a foreign threat before it could make its way into our midst, as many foreign traffickers have been able to do in the past here in Utah. Now, turning to my mom's side, my ancestry traces back to King Kamehameha I, unifier of all the islands, who was from Kohala on the Big Island where my mom was born and raised. As a child, I was regaled with stories of the wisdom and bravery of Kamehameha, and I could talk about them at length. But there's a different story of courage and teamwork and purpose that I want to share from Hawaiian lore today. Once upon a time, a giant eel called the Great Puhi saw a young girl and her brother playing in their waves by their home. The Puhi struck, dragging the young boy to the bottom of the ocean and into a magic cave. The sister dove down after them but could not save her poor brother. The giant Puhi was too big and too strong and guarded the cave very closely. The girl turned to the sea creatures around her for help. "Please help me, save my brother," she cried. Along came a powerful shark, but once the girl explained what happened, the shark said, "The Great Puhi, I cannot fight him. He is too strong." The same thing happened with a mighty whale, a stingray, octopus, and other sea creatures until finally the girl gave up and began to cry again. All of a sudden, 2 small limpets heard the crying. Now, limpets are tiny sea creatures with shells that cling to the rocks. In Hawaii, they're black, and we call them opihi, and we like to eat them, but that's another story. The 2 opihi spoke to the girl and said, "Please stop your crying. We'll help you." "No offense," said the sister, "but how can you help when you're just small, slow, and not very strong opihi?" "We will show you what we can do," they confidently replied, and let go of their rocks. So down went the opihi. They latched onto the puhi's tail and slowly inched their way up until they slid over the puhi's eyes, giving the sister a chance to swim down and take her brother back home safely. A cute story? Yes. But these lessons from my Hawaiian roots have deeply influenced me. Whether you are a king like Kamehameha or the smallest opihi, you can display courage, and with unity and teamwork, make a difference. Courage means you take on the difficult cases. Now, I've been a partner at a large private law firm and litigated against the biggest firms in the world. Even with technology advances that we're making in the AG's office, and even though we instituted the first salary raises this office has seen in the last 10 years, we will never have the resources of private firms. In many instances, we are outgunned, outmanned, and outspent in lawsuits. But like the opihi, we utilize our advantages and find ways to win against the odds. Unity in the AG's office means everyone is a key contributor, from the executive team down to our summer interns. If one person fails, we all fail. We work together to win, and any success is the team's. Everyone has a purpose. In fact, I've had several conversations with the Capitol janitorial staff in English and Spanish. They were initially surprised. "No one really talks to us," they said. "We just clean." I've explained to them that they too are an important part of our team. I've thanked them for what they do. I've encouraged them to keep doing their best because dedication in any job rubs off on the rest of the team. Like Martin Luther King said, if it falls to your lot to be a street sweeper, sweep streets like Michelangelo painted pictures. Sweep streets like Beethoven composed music. Sweep streets like Shakespeare composed poetry. In the AG's office, purpose equals pride in one's work, power to get it done, productivity and progress. Now finally, let me share from my mom's Japanese lineage. Our ancestors were the feudal lords of the ancient Maeda clan, those who built Kanazawa Castle and its city, the capital of Ishikawa Prefecture. The Maeda lords and samurai were renowned for heroism on the battlefield, but the Maedas were even more acclaimed for their patronage of the arts and culture. Such was the way of the warrior, or Bushido, a code of ethics and living that emphasized not only strength in battle, but spiritual strength and honor in everything. So powerful was the commitment to Bushido that a samurai's life was easily given if it meant the preservation of one's own honor or the protection of another's. Samurai were given authority to act in the name of their feudal liege, but with that power came an expectation that it would only be used to protect the state and its people. That Bushido honor was displayed in the 1940s by the Fighting 442nd U.S. Combat Regiment, the most decorated military unit in American history. That unit was made up of American citizens of Japanese descent, most of whom had their families, U.S. citizens, interned in relocation camps by the government simply due to their heritage. Most of those families had businesses that they built and investments that they had made confiscated by the federal government, again, merely because of their ancestry. This military unit was called the Go for Broke Battalion because they fought with a fury and abandon that distinguished them from their peers. Many of these soldiers said they would rather die than return home with any suspicion that they didn't give their best in defense of America, because to do so would be the ultimate dishonor. Even before I came to the AG's office, I have led my legal teams and business teams with this tenet: we must win the right way. Now believe me, I want to win every time, whether it's a prosecution, a civil case, or an election. But in my mind, and now in the AG's office, how we win is more important than if we win. We would rather lose a case or lose an election doing things the proper way, the honorable way, than to win by lying, cheating, withholding evidence, misrepresenting facts, or any other dishonorable way. And like the Bushido warriors, my team has heard me emphasize many times that we are granted great power in the AG's office, the power to investigate, to prosecute, to start the process towards shutting down a business or removing a child from a home. This type of power must be wielded wisely, carefully, and humbly in the service of others. We must make sure, in our efforts to protect citizens of this state, that we do not deprive them of their liberties. So in closing, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and duty to live up to the oath of office that I swore today. Side by side with my team and you, the public, it is my great hope that I can continue to lead the AG's office lifted by the pillars of God, family, and country, and further supported by the pillars of my parents' example and the gifts of the many cultures that have blessed me throughout my life. Again, I thank you for your support and trust in me and my team. I love this job, and I'm energized every day by what I know that we can accomplish for the state and its citizens. May God bless each and every one of you. May He bless this great state of Utah and these United States of America. Thank you very much.